Hello.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi.
Starving, so I'm going to eat a little bit of lunch while we work. Sorry.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi, Shalini. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Just kind of letting go of everything else going on in the world right now.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
We're all here, right?
Yeah, we're all here.
Good.
Okay, who's running this meeting?
Why don't you start, Kathleen, with what you're, I would like, if you have any ideas for how we could do this?
Well, we have several ways we can do this. And I guess, yeah, Elise, I'm looking for feedback from you because you had created that really comprehensive table of everything we committed to in the climate action plan. And then you were sort of preparing to take notes on,
Like what we finished on the side, right?
we're doing this, we're not doing that, whatever.
Right,
And
and then
then-
you're right, there's a bunch of things that are like ongoing and they needed to have like more actions under them or specific things. Yeah, I think like picking goals for the year, that would be a really good way to do it. So let's say we honed it down to, I don't know, whatever number, and then only track those things. That would be much easier.
Right, because Forrest had done a really good job also. He created that spreadsheet where he identified the impact of different activities like, emissions reduced, which is wonderful in terms of getting a sense of the big impact items. But then a
Right.
lot of those big impact items also cost money,
Right.
which we may not have. I think it would be good to say we want to go after these big ticket things, but realistically, if we don't have money, let's look at the next tier down this year and see what we can chew off on some of those. I also the plan, it's very big and there are some things that have success measures identified and sort of numbers of things that we want to do, plant trees, put in cool roofs and cool pavements, do
Numbers of
outreach
EV
activities.
chargers, right?
There's a lot. And then there's some stuff that it's just like, well, and some things, we can't control. We are just coordinating with someone else or cheerleading or advocating. So in some cases, we just can't do it. But one of the things I did want to, and I don't want to go through all the measures on this call because that would drive us around the bend. But some of the measures I was wondering about, like when I started reviewing the plan, there were a lot of activities like number of EV charging stations came up a lot, and number of e-bike charging stations. Do we have usage data for those? I mean, in addition to paying for new ones, don't we want to promote use of them? And do we have the data on how much they're used?
We do have data, and I think the last person who got it was Forrest, and he had, were you at the meeting where he was, like, he actually had figured out who was using it and where they come from, and so the data, I haven't looked at it, but the data they get is pretty comprehensive.
Great.
Because I think it all goes through ChargePoint, right? And they have all kinds of tracking capabilities there. And because a lot of the people pay with an app, so it tracks. I'm assuming it tracks all that versus people who pay, at the station with cash.
Right.
Check that.
Yeah, so, yeah, because he seemed to know, where they came from, how long they charge for, like, so he could tell if there were local people or people who come here to work, So it would, I haven't looked at it, but we do have that kind of data.
Great. Well, we should talk to him about that. I think that if we say, for example, and I don't know what's going to be in your budget request or what's going to get approved in the budget, but say we can't afford new charging stations, we could just try to increase the usage of the current stations, because every time I walk by them, there's only one car there. So,
Yeah.
it's a bunch of people in town who don't even know they're there.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I know there are signs. It's not like
Yeah.
our
So
job.
it would, like, I think picking goals for the year, some identified measurable goals for the year would be really useful. And it's always super challenging to do that at a meeting.
Yeah.
I feel like we've put it on the agenda before, and I have the same issue with the Economic Development Committee. It's a hard thing to talk about at a regular meeting. Like,
Yeah.
it would help to almost have a subcommittee say, these are the things we're recommending we work on this year.
Right.
And
I
then
agree.
measure those.
Yeah. So in order to do that, do you guys in the town staff believe that we will not have the funding to do some of the big things, improve the town fleet by buying EVs or putting in charging stations or any of those infrastructure things? Do you think that's off the table for this year? Shall we just take those off?
I think so. What do you think, Dimitri?
We pushed our roof and HVAC to fiscal year 2021.
Okay.
So I'm assuming most of the projects are probably going to be pushed back. The only thing was that the EV charging platform, the EV Arc or whatever the hell it is, that was actually interesting, and it didn't involve construction, like digging, trenching, and all that stuff.
Right, right.
So there are grants for it, and so because there's no construction, there's no paving or no digging. It doesn't have to be done during the summer or whatever. So maybe if there's enough grant coverage out there, and we have somewhere to put it where it gets the most usage, that might be something to consider. But I'll need to look further into it and talk to Public Works manager.
Yeah, like things that are paid for by grants would not be off the table, for
Right.
sure. But we only have so much manpower to do grants, and that, so there is still a limit to just how many projects our limited staff can handle at any point. So we can't
Right.
put everything on that plan and expect like Dimitri or Sarah to pull it off.
Right. Well, I think some of those things, if in fact, and I do think that I know there's been some email from Sue Saunders about pursuing grants and things like that. So, maybe one of those things will fall from the sky, and that will be great.
And she's willing to do the application. So that's great too.
Yeah.
Right. So if that happens, that's great, because all those things are obviously high impact things and we want to do them. But I'm thinking what we should do is look across the plan for the other stuff that's low cost, no cost. And then if one of these other things falls from the sky, it's not like it's not on our list. It's just not, we can't reach into our pocket and pay for it right now. That's
Yeah.
sort of what I'm thinking. So I sort of think that we should, because I volunteered that we need to get more outreach going, Facebook, Nextdoor, newsletter stuff, because residents have a big impact. I mean, we've got, we have to work on the waste reduction thing. We need to work on the deep green participation. And honestly, I think people should be encouraged, and we need maybe work with some groups of people, the high school or the churches, to have people look at their carbon footprint and try and reduce it. And not all those are easy to measure unless we have a tool to
Well,
measure.
but there could be things like resilient neighborhoods. The Marine Climate Energy Partnership contributes to that program to keep their staff going. And it could be something like a goal of having 5 resilient neighborhoods groups form this year. And,
Yeah.
you know, then those groups are the ones that do, you know, some of that work.
Yeah.
And maybe we do more promoting just to get that group to help out.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Because, yeah, whoever commented on the Facebook page, she said, you know, I would never even have known about Deep Green if it wasn't for, you know, participating in resilient neighborhoods. Why aren't you guys doing more outreach on this? So I think that kind of stuff would be terrific. So yeah, increase in resilient neighborhoods participation. And we do have ways to measure Deep Green participation, and we have ways to measure waste reduction as well. So we don't have to go around and count them.
Right.
We have ways to measure them.
Right.
And then there's a whole bunch of other things. And honestly, energy audits and cool roofs and pavements, I don't know how those things can be. I don't know anything about how that might be measured, or if you would know. Do you get permits? Or, you know, what would be our method of setting a goal and measuring?
Yeah. I don't know. Because even if you got a building permit for like a remodel, you might be putting in a green roof, but we're not necessarily, I mean, maybe you could add a checkbox and then at the end of the year, we could say X number of houses put in their green roof, but.
Well, if you have a permit, doesn't the town come out and inspect at the end?
Yeah. But in terms of like tracking how many have been installed in a year, like roofing permits are easy because they're roofing permits, but there's also bigger projects that would have roofing as part of them.
Right, that's true. Okay. Well, I think picking things that it's easy to measure, or that where we know for a fact we can measure it, would be good. So we could set up a smaller group to completely agree on it, but do people think that the Deep Green participation, the waste reduction, resilient neighborhood setup, and honestly, I think increased EV charging station usage would be a good one, because I bet you we're not using them at capacity. You know, maybe if we were using them at capacity, people would be giving us more money. Because people would be beating at the door saying, hey, I can't charge my car. I don't know.
And what's worked in the past for a sustainability commission is everyone sort of, and actually it happens with Economic Development Committee too, is people picking a project they want to work on. It's just more like Janice doing the plastic reduction ordinance.
Yeah.
And Kurt doing the EV plan. So even if everyone could just pick one goal for themselves to work on for the year, and even if it's something that they work with staff, but that might be a way to do it too. And then, because you need someone to buy into it and have the interest to move it forward, and then they could do work outside of the meetings to move it forward. That's a good way to do it too. Like if you're doing outreach, maybe you just pick the topics that you want to do outreach on, and someone else works on something else.
Right. And I would also set, because it's actually in the plan, that we measure sort of our number of outreach activities. So we could put number of emails sent out, number of Facebook posts, number of Nextdoor posts. And, you know, in an ideal world, we could have a little survey at the end of the year to everybody's in and someone next door and see if they know what the Sustainability Commission is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think it's So, yeah, so that's a good, so maybe I'll come up with sort of an initial list, and then we can, at the next meeting, we can, well, I could send it out in advance so people could think about it, but people could talk about what thing they'd like to shepherd,
Yeah,
what thing they'd sign up for, and then they could think about the goal and how to measure it.
yeah.
And Kathleen, these would all be the low cost, no cost options, right? Is that?
I guess unless
Or,
someone wants
yeah, unless
to,
someone wants to go after a grant, you know, that's right.
yeah, I think Forrest wanted to pursue the generator issue to replace our diesel one, right?
Yeah, so that EV thing, what was that lady's name? Sorry. Susanna. That EV thing can act as a emergency battery. Basically, it's completely autonomous. It's not connected to anything. So it's just
Okay.
like a platform with a EV on top of it, and it's supposed to be able to charge up to, I think, 4 or 6 or whatever spaces, but it also acts as a battery.
Got it.
And then it is, I think, like flood-proof up to 9 feet or something like that. So if it's placed somewhere by the town hall, or for example at the fire station, or even, well, courtyard wouldn't get much use for it. So, but if it's placed here, we could have one and charge all the town cars all the time, and have it as a backup emergency power during the PSPS or some other disaster.
Right.
So those might be combined,
Yeah.
the generator and that EV charging thing. And I don't know if we can get more than one, but if we got one, maybe it could be like a, test and stick it somewhere at the town hall parking lot, and kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
Right.
But that's something to further look into.
Yeah, so to answer Shalini's question, my impression was that costs money, right, Dimitri?
Yeah, so they did say, I think it's around 60 grand for the whole thing, and they just plop it down and that's it. So there's no installation, there's no energy costs associated with it. There shouldn't be any maintenance, and it does seem like an interesting project. And they were saying one of the examples in that webinar was that the town of Oakland, or the city of Oakland, they had one of those, and they took it and they placed it at the COVID-19 drive-through testing, and they used it for emergency power and to connect all the whatever equipment they needed, and it's been sitting there and hopefully helping people, and it was on the news.
Right.
And so they are technically movable too, so you'll need specialized equipment, but in the event of a emergency or some kind of disaster, it could be moved around and considered as kind of emergency equipment for the town, maybe.
Right, but I guess I don't recall whether Forrest was hoping to get that paid for, or he was going to go look for a grant.
Right.
I think he's going to talk to some developers. I know there is potential for, it's called Self-Generation Incentive Program. There's potential for funding there. They're releasing several tranches of money this year and later this summer. So I think Forrest was going to talk to a developer about working with them and seeing if they could apply for some of that funding when it becomes available from the Public Utilities Commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so I'd say we could set goals. What I would say is we should set goals that if they cost money, that we can think of a possible funding source, or some of the low cost, no cost kind of outreach, community engagement stuff, because there's plenty of our goals that involve the residents of San Anselmo stepping up to the plate. So might be a good year to work on that. So yeah, why don't I can send out this little list we've talked about, remind people they could look through the plan and pick their thing they want to
Work on, yeah.
work on, and then we would set specific, then that person who volunteered would look at the goal, maybe set some goals, and I think we should look at these quarterly, otherwise you just sort of slide off the year and it's like, oops.
Yeah, and that long list is really difficult. Like you can't really look at that long list reasonably at a meeting.
I'm having a hard time just trying to get oriented, honestly. Like that list is really overwhelming, and I like work on this stuff all day.
Yeah, it's a lot of activities. Yeah, and yeah, so finding stuff that's viable.
Yeah, just having a goal that it could be on either quarterly or do written updates at every, like before every meeting. We don't need to even talk about it, but people could just send a written update as to how
Sure.
theirs is going, or if it's something that doesn't need to be talked about.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, so that was my idea, and we could. I mean, I'll see what Forrest thinks about this EV charging station usage data, and we could set a baseline, and we could promote use of them.
Oh, that's a great, I think that's a great
Take a
idea.
picture of them, unknown at them, and put it
Yeah.
on Facebook and say.
And you're right, yeah, people may not even know they're there. That's
Right.
that's a good point.
That's a good point. I wonder if there's, I mean, like signs and banners
No.
would be low cost.
We don't have, that's one of the things, is we don't have a lot of signage, and we can get a sign at 101 that points people to San Anselmo for the EV chargers, which is kind of cool. There's some, I forget, I was reading about it somewhere, but so we might be able to contact Caltrans. I don't know who would do it, but so it would be just helpful for San Anselmo if people were saying, hey, go to San Anselmo for EV chargers from the freeway, because it would just bring people downtown.
And
then
those new signs are
coffee.
so great.
Coffee this way.
Yeah, and it's totally far, but you know, if we had those kind of signs, I don't know, it just might help, because then maybe people would, at least they could, maybe once you're on the freeway, you can get yourself to San Anselmo to the charger, but it might be some good free publicity on the freeway.
Well, especially
Right.
for anyone going to West Marin, right? Like we have all these new great signs that are like point
Oh,
raised.
yeah.
Like it would
Yeah.
be great if we had like, you know, this is
EV
your last spot
charger.
for EV charging for another, you know, whatever it is, miles.
Right, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I love the new signs that have been put in, but I've long thought that one little, is it wooden lame sign down
Yeah,
here on San
The
Francisco?
country one.
Yeah, what I want is something that says, great coffee, olive oil and vinegar. You know, like when you pull up to a shopping center and it has the little marquee that says what's there.
Yeah.
Oh, San Anselmo was there.
So we have, yeah, there's that, that was the big round of first signs has just gone in, and then there's gonna be like other signs that are like ones that say, wait, have the downtown ones gone in, Dimitri? Isn't there some that say historic downtown?
Yes.
The ones on Drake right at the hub went in. I don't know what else.
Yeah, there's a whole sign program the Economic Development Committee is working on, and so, but we should make sure that that program has EV. I think that's what we did, is we put in like $1,000 in the budget, or maybe $3, to use for those kind of signs.
It should
I
say
think maybe it was
gelato
$1,000.
really largely. I feel like gelato is something people are really into now. And they reopened a couple weeks ago,
Oh,
right?
good.
Yeah, no, I think that if signage on the EV charging and then doing, we'll figure out how to get the data. Forrest can look at it, setting the baseline and then talking about how we increased it by getting people more aware of it, I think would be a great thing.
That's a great goal.
And if they're full, then we can agitate for more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we'll review this list. I mean, I think that via the greenhouse gas, you know, status update every year that talks about the amount of waste and emissions, we have a natural way we have a baseline. And then we can just measure the changes year over year. But we could set some other ones like resilient neighborhoods set up, things like that. And then we'd set a baseline. I assume you guys, there's a lot of stuff in there, and I assume you do have a baseline, like on the town fleet, stuff like that, like number of EVs or,
I mean, we have those, yeah, we have that data. Like,
should-
we know how many cars we have.
Wait, is it-
I know there's not many, but we should write it down. You know, how many EVs, how many regular gas cars, and then see the mix change over time. I know we're not buying them this year, but
And I might have, I was thinking that as we were showing those lists around, I might have updated that list when we did the report. So I might have a better version of that list.
okay. It'd just be good to get the baseline numbers in there, even if there's only like 3 cars.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
And also it would, yeah, it might be a good idea to have 3 out of X number. So there's some context to it. Because if the other number gets higher, it
yeah,
might show that we're going in the wrong direction.
right, right. Like with our waste. And the other thing, I mean, some of the things that we have, like getting people to measure their carbon footprint and getting community people to sign up to do stuff like reduce waste. I think it would be great in the coming year to make better use of our youth members who must be members of their high school ecology
Sustainability
clubs
group, yeah.
or whatever they are, and have a natural group to work with to do some of this stuff. I mean, I'm assuming that they would.
I think
some
they
of them
have,
would work on
I don't,
this.
if they both go to Drake, I think they work on individual projects there too through Drake. So they might be working on something. I know our last 2 kids, they did the composting study. So they did a little trial compost study to see if people would increase their composting use if we gave them a kitchen compost container. So maybe these 2 would also have some type of goal that they could work on.
Yeah.
Or that they're already working on for school that they could use our help with.
Right. Yeah, I was looking at the projects that were done by students through the Environmental Forum of Marin, where each student takes a project and then at the end of the year gives a presentation on their research. And there is some good stuff in there. I mean, those kids do amazing work. So that's why I was thinking maybe getting the students to actually take on a project and report on it would be a good thing. And some of these things, like we all went in and got our parents to help us define our carbon footprint, and this is what we're doing to change it. I mean, I'm assuming these kids care about climate change and would like, you know, be interested in that. And we can use that climate solution network solutions thing, and without paying for it, they can just use the Marin County site and they can just go in and, you know, run their numbers.
Oh yeah, that's true.
That's free. Getting a San Anselmo site where we could specifically measure our results as a town is another topic, but anybody in Marin can go in and use it. And it's got Marin numbers specific to what program you signed up with, MCE or Deep Green or whatever. So anyway.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at how hard it has been I mean, we haven't done an effort to get people to sign up for Deep Green in a couple of years, but or maybe it was longer, maybe it was like 4 years ago or 5 years ago, there was a big effort from the Sustainability Commission to get people signed up. And it just, I don't know why it's so hard because now, but maybe it used to be harder and people just don't know now how easy it is.
I mean, all you need is your PG&E account number. I mean,
Yeah. So I'm surprised that there's not more people, but maybe it is just awareness.
I mean, when I moved here and, you know, I started my service with PG&E and they had the little Deep Green flyer, whatever, it was a whole envelope. It was, I don't know, kind of daunting because it was like, what is this exactly? I don't know. So I, you know, left it on the back burner for a while. I think I finally signed up for it, but, and it's from an apartment building, but still, you know, I guess if you don't know about it, it's just like, oh, what are they trying to get me to do?
Saw me.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
and how much it's going to cost, but they have now all that information is so readily available on the website that yeah, it's interesting. Or we need to think of some strategy that will work. But also MCE, you guys are doing all kinds of marketing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can connect whoever's the right person to our to MCE's like community staff. There's a big goal, as you are aware, to double the number of green energy, deep green customers to 20,000. And right now it's a little bit over 10,000. So.
Yeah, I think we should have a goal to double it, and then just let people know about it somehow, because I think people don't know about it. You know, it comes in the envelope, but you know, you just throw all that stuff away.
Larkspur's getting a deep green banner that can be used by other communities when they're done with it.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Let's do that. Woo.
That's a really smart idea. Oh,
Yeah.
Sarah, since Sarah, you went to the climate energy meeting. Was there anything today at that MCEP that would be of interest to us?
No, they mostly just talked about they're not doing the plastics anymore, and then they went over drawdown, but there wasn't.
I mean, the county's not going to do it?
She said it's kind of postponed indefinitely, it sounds like, because of the restaurants, they can't engage them, so they just are, it's just postponed indefinitely.
Yeah, that's too bad. What did they set goals for what they're going to work on?
No.
No.
That might have been the last meeting
Oh,
where they set
which
the
I
goals.
think
Yeah.
I was at that one, but I can't remember what they were. I think, well, part of Resilient Neighborhoods has just been a regular program. They're definitely supporting that. I forget what the other goals were.
Yeah. I think Resilient Neighborhoods is having a lot of problems because they can't find funding, and none of the jurisdictions want to fund them because they can't tie it to their jurisdiction. So Resilient Neighborhoods helps everyone in the county. So like, for example, Nevada's not going to fund their program if it's helping people from San Rafael. And then MCEP can't fund them anymore. So I know they're having a hard time.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, as I went around and with Facebook, I went to a lot of other Facebook pages and used our page to like their page, sort of to follow it. A bunch of the pages weren't being maintained at all. And I don't remember, I think Drawdown's being maintained, but Resilient Neighborhoods was kind of
Old.
full. And whenever I see that, I'm like, it doesn't look good. So.
Well, I'm sorry, guys. It turns out there's an urgent legal issue that I need to run for, but
right.
Do we need more next steps? It sounds like we're pretty clear.
I think
We're
so
pretty
too.
clear. Yeah, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
I'll send it out, and we'll get everyone on the commission to think about a project they want to adopt and setting some goals, and then we'll go from
It'll
there.
be way easier to track.
Yeah, and if the money falls from the sky for our generator replacement EV charging station, that's great, but I don't think we should hang our hat on it.
I'll see if I can find some raining money, but yeah. All right. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks so much. Thanks for setting it up.
Have a good one.